is hallowed by our presence together. Welcome to the beloved community known as UU Amherst. I'm Reverend Michelle Buhite, the minister of this congregation. My pronouns, which I offer to create a truly inclusive and brave space for all to live into the fullness of their identities, are she and her. As you came in this morning, perhaps you noticed a table with fabulous things on it at the back of the chapel. That is our morning altar. It is our opportunity to create a momentary element of beauty. It will all be different next week. It is different every time we participate in that shared community of creating beauty. And so if you didn't have an opportunity on your way in, I invite you at the end of the service, or really at any time, you're not wearing seatbelts. So, if you're inspired, please feel free to do that whenever the Spirit moves. For those gathered here in the chapel, I invite you to put your phones on airplane mode, or as I like to call it, worship mode, so that you and all may be fully present and free from distraction. It also helps us free up bandwidth for our friends who are gathered on the live stream. Hi, we see you. Our song of intention this morning is found in the Teal hymnal, Morning Has Come. It's number 1000, which sounds like it would be at the back of the book, but it's the first song. And the lyrics will also be up front, and I will be offering relative pitch awareness, so if you're not familiar with the song, we can drag each other along. It's super fun. So I invite you to rise and embody your spirit as we sing together. It is our custom when we gather to light a chalice. The chalice is a cup or vessel that symbolizes the gathered community. The flame represents the spark that each one of us brings to represent the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of our commitment to bring more compassion and justice into the world. Catherine is going to light the chalice, and I invite you to share our lighting words. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. Each week, as we light the chalice to symbolize that gathered community, we also recognize and acknowledge that our church is built on holy ground, ground that was cultivated and nurtured by the first peoples, the Haudenosaunee, and before them, the Neutrals. And so we offer this libation as our giveaway, a symbol of our respect for and deep connection with the land. Thank you, Catherine. We are a beloved community, a gathering of people who have chosen to journey together, to encourage one another, and to be part of something important and life-changing. Because we aspire to be such a people, we make bold promises about how we will strive to be with one another. Whether today is your very first time or you have made UU Amherst your longtime home, I invite you to share our covenant, our sacred promise. Together we promise to gather in compassionate community, to celebrate diversity of thought and unity of spirit, and to seek wholeness for ourselves, our children, and our world. Last Sunday kicked off our season of generosity as we make pledges of financial support to UU Amherst. Our financial contributions make this place possible, from keeping the light and the heat on. I remembered to turn it up this morning. You're welcome. Or to pay our staff, to support the mission and various ministries and activities of this congregation. Unlike some other faith communities, we do not receive funds from the National Association. In fact, we contribute to them so that they are able to offer programs, staff, and to continue to amplify the liberal values of Unitarian Universalism in a polarized and politicized world. Throughout this season of generosity, we will hear testimonials from members and friends who have made UU Amherst their home and who give of their time, talent, and treasure. Today, we will hear from our treasurer and former board member, Don Tucker.
Hello, everyone. UU Amherst has been my home, my spiritual home, for over 30 years. I was brought up Catholic, and I could do a whole sermon on how I have traveled to be a UU, and I might do that someday. I met my wife, Diane, here, the love of my life, and my partner in crime. We get in do a lot of fun things together here. I've met some of my best friends here at church. I've had memorial services here for my parents and my in-laws. Several of my family members have their ashes in the memorial garden here. I've served on committees, the board, and I'm currently the treasurer. As such, as the treasurer, I know the finances of this church very intimately, and we have expenses. All of us, our expenses have gone up in the last couple of years with inflation and other issues that we've had, and the church has not been immune to that at all. Our insurance costs, our utility costs have really gone up a lot. The board has asked, and the finance committee has asked that we try to give 10% more if you can, on your pledge. My wife and I, even though our family finances are down, Diane is retired, we've decided to do the 10% increase ourselves. So I challenge all of you to do the best you can and help us keep the lights on and keep this place running. There's no doubt we're going to keep it running, but it helps a lot if we have more funds. Last thing, I'm also on the facilities task force here. We're going to have a meeting on after church, and I'm not exactly sure where we're going to do it, probably in the Emerson room. We're going to talk about where our facilities are at here. We had a architect's review several years ago, and we're going to talk about that and where we go from here with the information we got from that and what more information we may need to keep this place running. So try to put that in your calendar, November 12th after the service in the Emerson room. We have some hard decisions, but I know we can do it. Okay? Thank you.
So sharing the service with me this morning is Linda Joy Groat. Linda Joy is the team lead for Connections, and she has some very important information and insights for us today. We'll be tag teaming a bit, and so she'll share some things, and then I'll share some things, and we'll do some things. So I invite Linda Joy up to the pulpit. And I assume you're going to be clicking for yourself.
Can you show me how?
That's the forward
Okay.
button, and it's counterintuitive, but point it at that monitor.
Okay.
please.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Linda Joy, and thank you, Michelle, for sharing the space with me. I'm here to talk about lots of things relating to how we are with each other. I titled the slide, Reimagining Us, the You at 70, because that is going to be our theme of the next few months as we put together what we are. We're celebrating in 2024 our 70th anniversary of this building, of this congregation. Not this building, this congregation. So it's a very exciting year, and we wanted to highlight that. So what can we be going forward as we celebrate 70 years together? So as Michelle said, I am a team lead. I'm actually a co-lead of Connections with Lori Kaznicki. Lori, can you just stand up so everyone can see you and say hello? This is Lori. Thank you, Lori. And we started the Connections process by merging two of the groups, which was membership and faith development, neither of which were very big. So I felt that we should push those two things together, and faith development was mostly our children's program with some adult programming, but when we lost our faith development director last year, I decided to suggest that we combine the two so that we can get more people focused on overall growth and development. So we, in May, got a group of people together that wanted to be part of it, and we came up with a mission statement, which is to intentionally develop a welcoming and inclusive community where all ages can explore a personal path to spirituality and to provide opportunities that nourish those deep connections, individual growth, and wholeness. And what I'm holding here is what looks like a ball of yarn, and it's actually it's a knitted bunch of strips that are sewn together in a repeating pattern, so they're interwoven, and it's made by one of our congregation members, Marcia Gunther. And I love this because to me this really symbolizes the connections that we have within our community here. Our congregation is woven together, and Michelle likes to call it the fabric of our community, beloved community, and it's just so nice to put your hands in it, and you can like really squish it and pull it and be supported. It's like a fidgety, soft comfort toy. And I've been thinking about this as how we are together, because every single thing that we do is connections. It just permeates everything from the building on up. So that's what we've been doing. So Connections has 3 goals. The first goal is to quickly connect newcomers and people to meaningful activities within our congregation. And so what we do is we look at people, we say, oh, hi, how are you? And the first thing we want to do is introduce ourselves, tell our name, and find out who are they and what do they like to do. We provide activities for faith development and learning for all ages. It's been a challenge, to be honest, to do that because the ages and stages change quickly, daily, weekly. There's not a lot of consistency, so we try our best to do a lot of things that will accommodate a lot of people. And then the third goal is to increase membership and strengthen the congregation. that everything that we do relates to those 3 goals. So one of the first things I did with the team is, and with Michelle, I worked pretty closely with Michelle, and we redesigned our business card. And we actually put Michelle on it. So Michelle's actually on the business card. And I wanted to make it a very welcoming background so that people would see that we're here to be welcoming, to be part of everybody's life. And I wanted it also to be less formal. I think the facade that we've had in the past has been very formal, the materials that we put out into the world. So I wanted to soften that with a welcoming and informal thing. So, and on there too, on this card as well, there's a QR code updated so that people can just scan it and go right to our website, which has a ton of information on it. So this is what's called our principles card. People often say, well, what do Unitarian Universalists believe? And then we're like, I don't know, how do we say it in a nutshell? We can paraphrase our values about democracy, about social justice, about peace and love and hope and taking care of the world. But now we have a card that shows on the back what we believe in. So I took, these are very tiny print, and I'm sorry about that, but it had to fit. And I took it right from the UUA website, and you can see underneath there, if you can see that teeny tiny link, there's a reference to that. But basically, it talks about the 7 principles. It is the 7 principles. So those 2 things go into a welcome packet that we have, along with a newsletter, along with a connections card, which I'm going to describe in a minute, and the newsletter. And people that come for the first time will be offered that welcome packet so that they can learn more about us. So this is the new connection card. Maybe it's a little tiny, but one of the biggest things I did to update it was to include information about how do we find us, how did they find us, and what are they interested in, and what they would like to have happen next. That QR code I also put on there because, again, our new and younger people, older people, everyone that has the understanding of how to do it can use the QR code. They can go right to the website and then enter their data right into a online form, and then it comes right into a spreadsheet that we get notification that there's a new person so that we can immediately reach out and say thank you for coming, and if there's anything we can do, whatever communication we want to say. So that is exciting. So this is you. Okay, thank you.
She'll be back. We're going to offer a shared reading, and we're dividing up the congregation to left side, which is all of you on the east, and the right side, which is all of you in the west, okay? And this will all be very evident right now. So beginning with the left side. This house is for the ingathering of nature and human nature. It is a house of friendships, a haven in trouble, an open room for the encouragement of our struggle. It is a house of freedom, guarding the dignity and worth of every person. It offers a platform for the free voice, for declaring both in times of security and it is a house of truth-seeking, where scientists can encourage devotion to their quest, where mystics can abide in a community of searchers. It is a house of art, adorning its celebrations with melodies and handiworks. It is a house of prophecy, outrunning times past and times present in visions of growth and progress. This house is a cradle for our dreams, the workshop of our common endeavor. Thank you. Be a tree. When I was sort of compiling the things that Linda Joy had to say and some of my reflections, the image that kept coming to me was of a tree. And so just kind of, and of course, we're surrounded by the beauty of the trees. So keep that image in your mind. As individuals and as a community of faith, we embody the wisdom of trees, growing our roots ever deeper and extending our branches in the upward thrust of life. Our heritage includes what we have received and what we will give in return. Deepening our roots has many components: understanding our past, personal spiritual practices, becoming informed about the issues of our time, reading and discussing together. Our tree is only healthy when the roots extend both deep and wide. As important as it is to nourish and expand our roots, we need to balance that with branches that reach high and wide. Where our roots include our individual practices and focus on our community here, our branches take us out into the world to live our values out loud. In a recent service, I made the observation that we can't know who we are until we know where we came from. We have options as to what to do with that knowledge, but it's important to be intentional and take the time to collect and confront our heritage. I hope you will indulge me in a little game of musical chairs. I find it very useful to see patterns and to note potential expectations based on external factors. And I recognize that some of us have some mobility issues, and so if moving won't work for you, you're perfect where you are. But I'm hoping that those who are able can play along. So, the far left section, over by the windows, those who have arrived sometime between 1954 and 1979, I'm going to describe it all first before we get moving, because otherwise it'll be chaos. I do enjoy chaos, but someone could get hurt. So those folks will be in that far section. In the left middle will be those who arrived here between 1980 and 1999. The right middle, those who arrived between 2000 and 2009. And the far right, those who've arrived anytime from 2010 to today. Okay. And no, this is not birth. This is not when you were born. I would have had to include some more dates. So let's just see what happens. You're on the move. Visual aid up front. If you're able to move, do. For the new arrivals, if you need to spread into that middle section, feel free. No one has to sit on laps. So, y'all over there on the far right, if you need to expand and encroach on those people, feel free. This is not when you were born. This is when you arrived. I should have made that clearly. Arrival can mean many things. When you arrived at UU Amherst, so you were not here, I'll bet, between. All right. So these are the folks up to 99, 2009, and from 2010 to the present. I think you're over there in the popular crowd. But feel free to sit in one of the seats, in the middle section there where there are some chairs. Okay. All right, I was not clear. Okay, good. All right. Some people are still on the move, but I'm going to draw your attention back to me. Okay, so just look. Just look. Now, understand that there are folks who are in the virtual world that we can't see. But I hope you moved around in your living rooms to accommodate this structure. So Sharon, go ahead. Any place is good for you. Look at all the folks that have arrived in the last chunk of years. I think that's great fun. Yay! So let's make it even more fun. How many of you, and you can raise your hands or wave at me or do something exciting, have arrived during 2023? Yeah, that's exciting. Okay. This is not a competition. This is not a football game. Okay. All righty. So it's important to know who and what we are, and thank you to the folks who have had the steadfastness. I mean, hallelujah for the folks who have remained all through these years. This is great. Yay. I know, Jerry, you are the original. 1954, right there. He was a wee babe. So we are influenced by when we arrived, right? So we may feel different levels of ownership as far as, oh no, I just got here, I really can't do a thing. Well, of course you can. And I'm delighted at folks who are doing the things. For those who've been here longer, oh, I've been here so long, I'm really tired, I don't have to do a thing. Oh yeah, you do. Keep coming, keep being here, keep sharing your wisdom. So, I want to go through the decades a little bit, because yes, we're in kind of a bubble here. If you all need to spread out, it's okay. You don't get to move back to your original chairs. And I have to say, this was not my plot to get you to move out of your assigned seats, but it does make me happy. So if you need to wiggle into those chairs, feel free. Okay, well, all right. All right. So the 1950s. The people that arrived at UU Amherst in the 50s were the church builders. Fairly affluent, ready to do the work and have the capacity to inspire others. At this point in time, in the 50s, there was no such thing as the Unitarian Universalist Association. That merger of our faith families did not happen until 1961. But the Buffalo Unitarians and the Buffalo Universalists were paying attention to what was happening in other circles, namely among the youth. The youth programming had started to be integrated between the Unitarian youth and the Universalist youth. And so they were way ahead of the curve. And yeah. So the ministers at the time were Robert L. Cope, apparently before the time of photography, and John Colbjornson. I don't know. It's a beautiful sketch and very lifelike, I'm sure. All right. In the 1960s and 70s, in the outer world, so much social change. So at this point in time, church is still kind of a societal expectation. It's not unusual to meet someone, hi, how are you? What do you do for a living? Where do you go to church? This congregation was filled with college professors, engineers, and their spouses who had time and energy for significant volunteering without the pressure of being wage earners. There was political unrest throughout the country, and Unitarian Universalists, because by then we had merged, were out in front, and our congregation was no different. UU Amherst began the Country Day preschool, bringing children of color from Buffalo to this relative Eden of Amherst. At the time, and I've seen pictures, We just think that it always has looked like this. But in the pictures, looking out, there was like nothing, right? Nothing across the street. Oh, as far as the eye could see. So not quite the development. And so these children had an opportunity to become friends, to learn about different cultures and different experiences, and who can possibly know the ripples of that initiative, of those children's lives who were changed. Members of UU Amherst were also part of the Woolworth lunch counter demonstrations, advocating for desegregation and equal access for all. At the time, the ministers were Howard Waterhouse and Blaine Hartford. They were in succession, not together. The Waterhouse Ecology Center, which is at the back of our property, if you made a beeline, why do we say beeline? Have you watched bees? They're like all over. If you went just straight out of the building, through the parking lot to the woods, that's the Ecology Center. And it's named after Debbie Waterhouse, who was Reverend Waterhouse's, oops, how did I do that? Did you do that, Les? He's ahead of me. But it was named after her because she was tragically killed in an auto accident. Okay, now we are at the 1980s and the 1990s. Culturally, a time of tragedy and creativity. So the tragedy of the AIDS epidemic and the slow response to the devastation of particularly the gay community, and a time of incredible creativity. The birth of the internet. Wait, what? So quite a broad spectrum. Mount St. Helens erupted. I mean, just so much. The church continues to be a safe haven for those who might be more secular and who come to church more because of ideology and community. And you're going to hear some more about that from Linda Joy in a moment. It's getting, at this point in time, harder and harder to have a single wage earner, and so volunteerism is a little bit trickier to schedule. The ministers during these decades were Paul Treat, Felix Lyon, and Carl Titchener. And Carl, after about 10 years, his wife then joined as, I believe, the quarter-time minister. She had gone to seminary, and so she comes up next. So the 2000s, a time of endings and beginnings, the ending of a long, long, long ministry with the Titcheners, and the beginning of Tim Ashton's ministry here. So at this time, Massachusetts legalized same-sex marriage, and other states slowly, some very reluctantly, followed. The whole decade was shaped, and probably the whole century eventually, was shaped by the events of 9/11. So at UU Amherst, the tide starts to turn a little bit. It has gone from mostly, and I'm reading from history, I wasn't here, so if I'm wrong, you can tell me later, but tell me with a sweet smile and maybe a pat on the head. The congregation was more humanist in its makeup, and in those years between 2000 and 2012, the UUA, the National Association, started to be more spiritual, and so there was a little bit of a, that kind of meeting the friction. The end of a significant ministry, and then there were 3 years of transition. Oops, that's the next thing. So, during these times, from 2010 on, disruption in the world, the earthquake that killed 230,000 people in Haiti. It is just mind-boggling. Epic oil spills, a growing awareness that humans bear responsibility for climate change. Within these walls, there was disruption within. The end of another significant ministry. Tim Ashton was here 8 years. And then 3 years of transition ministries. So then we get to 2015. Everything's coming up roses. Well, maybe not quite that. You know, climate disruption, Voldemort in the Oval Office, a global pandemic, war. Oh my, everything just gets a big sigh. Well, aside from all of the hard things, secularism in the society has just become a given. I mean, how many of you recently have had someone come up to you and say, "Hi, I'm so-and-so, where do you go to church?" Anybody raising their hand? No, it's not a given in society anymore. Nobody needs a safe haven from all those other religions. Sundays are just another day. Sports for kids. Back in my day, things have just changed. And nobody will think less of you if you don't attend church. In fact, it can be kind of the opposite. You might be seen as old-fashioned or just a weirdo if you squander part of your precious Sunday in this way. And for those of us who gather, I think we would agree that the opportunity to connect, to sing together, to be together, and consider how we want to live our lives is far from squandering our time. So why this little review of the past 70 years? Because we can't know who we are, where we are going until we know where we come from. It's inevitable. Here we go. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Linda Jo, hey.
Okay, now some pragmatics from Linda Joy. This is a chart. It is linked to It is linked to that form that I mentioned that is connected to our connections card. And if anyone wants to see a connection card up close, look in your bench in front of you. And if you're in the last bench, I'm sorry, you'll have to get up and look around. But it shows you that there's 3 categories. How did you find us? What are you interested in? And what would you like to do next? This is an I found UU Amherst slide, and it takes those answers and puts them into a spreadsheet. So I'm going to I need to come, well, I can't actually see it. So I'm going to rely on my memory. The first one over there is driving by. So the 12% of the respondents and I've only been gathering information since like maybe June. So it's very small numbers, but you can see about all those people that have joined, there's been about 20 respondents overall. And so that changes. Maybe that one's only 12. I can't see from here. But so 12% of the new respondents have said that they noticed our new sign. They noticed driving by. I didn't put the notice new sign in there until recently, like a little after that. So that has 0, but it's probably not true. The second one is 28% is friends and family. And I don't know what the third one says. What does that say? NPR. Yeah, I put that one on there as a placeholder because I really think we should advertise more and sponsor those little statements on NPR. We did that last year for the Living Green Festival. It's quite expensive for a few seconds, 75 seconds or something, so you really need to have money for that. But I put that as a placeholder because I think that that's a great place to share what we believe. But right now it's 0 because we're not actually doing that. And then 36% are the people that are finding us on the internet. So if you add on 36 to 28, I mean, that's a significant percentage. Almost 60% of the people are finding us through those 2 methods. And then 8% are coming back. So they've been here a while, they take a little break, and then they come back. So that's helpful to know. I just have to get to my spot so I make sure I say everything. So the next slide I am interested in. So some people are coming for a blend of community spirituality, and ideology. And that is something I'm going to talk a little bit more about. So when I ask them, what are you interested in doing? They're interested in 4 things. Can somebody read that first one there? I don't know if you guys, all the way over 80%. Can you read that? So 80% of the people, they're looking to find community, and this is of the new respondents. And then the next one, 72%. Can you read that one too, Lynn?
Social justice and helping others.
Okay. Is that, wait, where? Oh, that's 2? Okay, well, that's 50%. So 50% of the people that are coming want that. And the third one? Oh, that was the third one? Okay, that's 72%. And then,
We skipped the second one. That was 48% exploring building faith for me and or my children.
okay, thank you. And then the 68%.
60% environmental awareness and action.
Okay, so the 3 that they want to do involve social justice, environmental action, and be part of a community that shares their values. And the faith part is important, but it's not as important. This is what Michelle was saying. It's not as important to say I belong to a church for this reason, but it's important to them to explore faith and do it in the context of community and social justice. Okay, so those are the newcomers. Oh, no, this is the last slide here we also collect is people that want to get on the mailing list. So we have, with that connections card, if you give your email, you immediately get connected to the Friday weekly update and the newsletter. And then, Lynn, can you read the second one, the 36?
36% talk with Reverend Michelle and or become a member.
Okay, so that's really good to me to understand that 1/3 of the people that are coming through the door, more than 1/3, want to really come in and get involved in something and be part of it. The one thing that we have a question mark that we need to be clear, and we'll talk about this more later, is how does membership happen? And that's something that I want to make sure everybody understands. Okay, and then 4%, what's that one, Lynn?
Learn more about connection opportunities.
Okay, learn more about connection opportunities. I think that's not real clear about what that is, and I also added in second. But we reach out to help people. They don't know what they want, so we have to reach out. And the last one? And that's acknowledging the introvert people that come in, that they don't really want to be the center of anything right away. They just want to hang out and and that just gives me a good idea of who wants to be approached and who doesn't. And I added that one in more recently, but several of the people have checked it, which I think is interesting. They don't want to maybe be bombarded. Okay, so this is the next one. Why do people come to UU Amherst? So people who are already here is the people that you are, except for a few people that are coming in new. I became curious about this reason. Why do new people come? Why do people that are already here stay? And I think that we reflect the same patterns. So I was thinking about a proposed model of looking at our membership and understanding who's here, why are we here, who are we, what and where are we going to spend our resources and our passions, and how are we going to move forward together? I just have to look at the next slide real quick so I can see what okay, yeah. All right, so we have a very small number of active people compared to the number on our membership list. Our current membership list is a bit out of date, and we're going to be updating it much more accurately during our generosity drive this year. It has approximately 180 names on it, and that includes couples broken out into individuals and their adult children, young adults. Approximately 90 of that 180 have moved on, are older and not able to participate, or have disengaged for unknown reasons. So that leaves about 90 active members, which I'm going to show you here. So this is my thought. This is just an idea that popped into my head one day, and I like to think of things very visually. So ideology is one circle, and that's our beliefs about what we think and how we feel about the principles that we're living in and our values. Community is how we all are together. Spirituality is the feeling and faith that we have and that what's driving us. And what I think is really interesting is where these places intersect, it's where people are joining certain activities. So once they're here, what do they do? So where it overlaps of ideology and community, those are people who are very principle-driven, but they need to have a population to do it with. And so they find their people and they work on their projects. Community and spirituality overlapping, well, maybe the idea of going out there and changing the world isn't the most important thing, but it's really important for us to be in community and also to share those rituals with somebody. And then ideology and spirituality, where they overlap, it's a place where they might do something on the side, but they don't necessarily have to do it with everybody else. They can do it alone. So where spirituality and community and ideology don't intersect at all, those are people in community. They're people who just want to come here to see other people. They don't necessarily want a heavy lift. They don't necessarily have to be in service. They just want to be there and hang out. And then spirituality, some people don't want to be in the service or part of the community at all, and the ideology isn't super important, but it's there. But they do their part quietly, and they do it like service-wise. They might be out in the back working, or in the garden, or in the kitchen, upstairs. There's different places that people may go. But if they only need that spirituality, they may do it very privately. Okay, so in the middle, where they intersect, is where there's a lot of overlap. There's people that they're doing everything, and they want to be part of everything for a very balanced number of reasons. So I am going to, so some people obviously wouldn't join at all. The non-joiners of any of this don't need anything. They don't need any community, and they're not interested. So I can't read. What's the last one over there say, Lynn? The very tiny one? Yeah, that bottom corner.
The places where these three ideals intersect, or not, in parentheses, determine if one will become an active member and where and how they will participate.
Okay, right. So where they intersect, in my theory, my theoretical model would predict where they would be participating. So now I'm going to set up another slide. I'm really sorry it's so tiny. But this is a slide where Michelle and I went through the list of members, and we came up with those 90, and then we sort of put people in different spaces as we saw them participating in our own minds. And so this may not be accurate, it may not reflect where somebody might place themselves, but it was just kind of a general way of looking at who's already here and who's doing what. And so as you can see, there's numbers in there where they intersect. So, but the biggest number there in the green circle is community. And there are 81 out of the 90 people are here for community. And that is consistent with the new member data, which of course is very small n. But that's exactly the same. People are coming to be together with other people that they feel comfortable with. So 23 of the people in our community are people that have maybe older, maybe special needs, or may have young children or things like that where they need support from us. So they may not be participating in some of the planning activities or all the other pieces, but they do need to have that support and are a huge part of our community. 19 people overlapped between community and spirituality. So they like to be with people, they like to be doing the rituals of service. And then 23 people really like to be spiritually alone. They like to be here, they like to be part of the membership and part of the community, but they don't necessarily have to participate. Only a couple people are just ideology driven and not out, within those other circles. And really only one person seemed to be in the spirituality but not ideology, which makes sense. I mean, most people are doing things as a group, but you can see that the ideology alone is only 42, community is 81, spirituality is 65. So in the center there's 22 people that are overlapping, and I think most of those people are the people that are running every single committee and every single thing, every event, every task force, and that's why it's tiring, for them, and we want to be able to support them, but we also want new people to be able to understand the clear pathway of how to get involved and what do they want to do. So that in a nutshell, is really what that was. Do I have any more? No, that's yours. Okay, sorry. Didn't know. Okay. I don't know where I am.
It's an incredible amount of data, and I know it's like, and it's just important for us to know who we are, what we're up to, and what we want out of a congregation. So how do we do all of that, all of those diverse things? Well, we build bridges. And so I like to sing about things, so let's sing Building Bridges. We'll sing it through twice. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Last line again. Friends, we could make such sweet harmony. You're on again, Miss Linda Joy.
That was fast.
Ah,
Gosh. Can I have the clicker? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, how are we going to move forward is my question. And I've been asking this with Michelle Michelle and I have been meeting for months now. I asked her, could I spend some time with her so that I could understand what the deeper meanings and issues are underneath. And I just started asking a lot of questions. Michelle was very gracious in sharing that time with me, and it's become a big source of, I think, enjoyment for us both to talk about these issues very deeply. Because I wanted to get to the questions that really matter. Are we okay? Oh, it's okay. All right. So we've had some really good conversations, and we feel like this is a question that is coming. It's sort of a pivotal time for us because we are looking at a lot of very big questions, and we're going to talk about what they are. So I am a school psychologist by training. I was a psychologist for 16 years in the public schools and some special programming, and I was trained. William Glasser was one of my very early idols because he is someone that understands why we're here and doesn't make it very complicated. So his theory is we are driven by our genes to satisfy 5 basic needs. It's survival, love and belonging, power, fun, and freedom. And it's very important that you understand that his theory is about choice, that we all have choice. Things are not predetermined or predestined, which I think is very aligned with the Unitarian Universalist principles. We each have a choice and a responsibility about how we're going to behave in any given situation. And there's an impulse, and then there's a stimulus and a response. And it's not just stimulus response, like automatic. There's a choice in the middle there. It may be very difficult, and brain function may make that hard, but we have to begin to ask ourselves, okay, what is it that we want to have happen? How are we going to get what we want? We have to know what we want first. So he's a real important person. And I think that as we move forward, we really need to ask ourselves, why are people coming here? Some people come here to survive. I know many people that have told their stories that this place has saved their lives. And I know that for a fact. The connections that we make here are wide and deep, and they really matter. Love and belonging. People need to feel like they're connected and loved, and that they have a place and a purpose. That's very important, and it's related to power. If you don't have a purpose and you don't have a connection, it's impossible to have power. You have to be able to find a place that you can make a difference, even if it's a small, small contribution. For some people, a small thing is a big thing. Freedom. Of course, that's a consistent principle for us. We all need to feel like we're in charge of our own thinking and our own lives. And it has to be fun. And if anyone was here at the witches dance last night, it was really fun. And we got people dancing, which has been my dream for a while, to have people dancing in the benches. You know, nobody got up on the benches, but people were really having fun. And if you did miss it, I'm sure there's going to be a video on Facebook somewhere. Okay, so that's William Glasser. And then another new person to me, which I did not study as a school psychologist, I didn't know about her until Michelle introduced me to the concepts of Brené Brown, and she's become very, very important in my life. She's a researcher, she's a social worker, and she calls herself a storyteller, and she spent 2 decades studying courage, vulnerability, shame, and empathy. How these emotions interplay in every single relationship of our lives. So she's written a book, she's written many books, and there's many little books, audio books on Hoopla, if anybody knows that. If they don't know, you can ask me later. And she's got things all over the internet. But she's written a new book called Dare to Lead, which is sort of an instruction manual for organizations to begin to look at how do we talk about these really difficult things and engage in hard conversations to improve where we are in our lives with everyone around us. So daring leadership is, according to Brené Brown, a collection of 4 skill sets that are teachable, observable, and measurable. And these are those. So rumbling with vulnerability is the first thing. And underneath rumbling with vulnerability, there's recognizing where you are when you're in any interaction and how you're feeling at that time. Again, asking ourselves, what do we want? What are we feeling? What do we want to have happen? And we're spending a lot of time talking about that in our group, which some of you might have heard about. We have an 8-week pilot group going on over Zoom, where we're actually working through the book, and we're writing in workbooks, and we're going according to a very structured schedule of conversation. And we have about 20 people in the group, I think, at this point. So rumbling with vulnerability, living into our values, which is being able to know what are your values. I have learned that my 2 values, the most important thing to me, one is joy and the other is resilience. And that is how I live my life, ups and downs, joys and sorrows, with joy and resilience. If we know what our core values are, then we can measure everything up. And for another little tidbit is our community, our congregation's values are justice and compassion. So everything that we do, we want to ask ourselves, is it meeting our mission, which is justice and compassion? Braving trust, which is being able to figure out, like, what are we going to do? We know we need to be vulnerable. We know we need to live in our values. Now we got to trust the process, and we can be brave enough to begin these difficult conversations. And then if you're going to open your heart to vulnerability, you're going to get your heart broken. That's just the way it is. Life is that way. If you open that heart, something's going to happen that's going to cause it to break. But then you're going to have to learn to rise again. And you're going to have to be that resilient person and pick yourself back up and move forward. So she teaches us how to do that really, really well. I guess it's you again. Okay.
We are going to go 10 minutes over. Take a deep breath. The coffee will just be that much better. Spirituality. So I know that some you can be allergic to words like spirituality. And I recognize that there are people seeking exactly that in our gathered communities. And that got me thinking that perhaps, in the words of the movie The Princess Bride, that word doesn't mean what we think it means. Language matters. It grows and it changes, just like we do. I taught communications, community college for decades. And one of my favorite units was on how language changes over time. Think of the word apple. Oh no, shall I eat it or shall I type an email to my friend? Same thing, mouse. Squeak, squeak, click, click. Turn around, there we go. Did you know that it's good to be sick? Wow, that is so sick. Language changes over time, which is why it's important for us to remain flexible, to let our branches reach ever higher, and not to become root-bound with calcified thinking. Which is why I appreciate Brené Brown's definition of spirituality, because it probably doesn't mean what we think it means. Spirituality is recognizing and celebrating that we are all inextricably connected to each other by a power greater than all of us, and that our connection to that power and to one another is grounded in love and compassion. Practicing spirituality brings a sense of perspective, meaning, and purpose to our lives. Wait, where's the part about God? It's not in there. It can be in there. You can insert that as you understand. This definition of spirituality is all active verbs: recognizing, celebrating, bringing perspective and meaning and purpose to our lives. And so that got me thinking. And I thought about that tree metaphor that I've been using. And trees adapt and change. And in our region, they really do change. But trees adapt in other ways too. So this walking stick is one that Les carved for me, my husband Les. It's very intricately carved, and I will show you, I'll have it later if you want to ooh and ah. This is a sapling that was growing on the hill in the back of the house where we lived at the time. So that this is where the roots were coming out. The part that we perceive as being on top was actually the part that was at the bottom. The sapling adapted in this hillside, very, very steep, with all the other trees, adapted, coming out from the hillside, finding a little bit of sunlight, and being able to grow and be strong, and one day turn into a walking stick, which I'm sure was its goal in life. So that just seemed like an apt description for how we need to be flexible and adaptable. And Linda Joy, we have hard questions, and you have a time limit.
Yes. I'm sure it's my fault that we're over.
Well, of course it's your
Because I
fault.
talk so much. When I was little, in school, my report cards always said it talks excessively. I didn't understand what the problem was, but I didn't know it was a bad thing. It can be. So what are the hard questions? Okay, these are just kind of rhetorical. I mean, at this point, we're not going to answer them. It's difficult to answer them. But what are they? So how can we engage everyone in meaningful connections? How can we attract families and children and offer support to them? How can we be both a church and not a church? How are we going to be stewards of our land? How are we going to care for our building? How can we serve as daring leaders in our world? We don't have the answers right now, but we are shaking the tree a bit to see what fruit falls out. We may need to climb up the ladder and even use a tool, maybe your walking stick, to reach into the highest parts. It will take brave work and tough conversations. At the same time, if we lead from heart, it is possible to find the answers together. So the last slide I want to show you is an important one, and it shows the visual transition through various phases of participation in our congregation. I've been giving it a lot of thought for a long time of a way to represent it visually so it's clear, and I have to give my husband Eric credit for helping me design it. So this is what I call the crossing the thresholds of membership. So the purple circle, the large purple circle, is all of our members. And within all of our members, we have three different groupings. There's active but non-voting members, active voting members, inactive members. There newcomers are up on the left, where they come and they join us in participating in activities. They participate in whatever services they want to do. And at some point, they become invested and they want to become members. So we need to let people know, in order to become a member, there's a threshold that needs to be crossed. And that threshold is signing our book and saying, yes, I intend to live by the values, by the principles of Unitarian Universalism, which I showed you at the very beginning on the back of our principles card. They're in our books, our songbooks. And they can, at that point, make a choice. They can either sign the book, and all they has to do that is to talk to Reverend Michelle and say, hey, I want to sign the book, I want to become a member. And so the book comes out, and they can put their name in it. And then at that point, they have a decision. They can make a financial contribution of any amount in that year and become an active voting member after 60 days, or they can continue to be an active non-voting member until they're comfortable. There is a category called good friends and non-joiners. They may make contributions, they may wish to, and they certainly do, but they don't really want to join. That's not something that they need to do. Or maybe they don't know how to join or when the threshold is crossed, but there is a group of people that are in that category. And then so everyone is in that category once they choose until they become inactive. Sometimes people just don't participate. They wander away, or they do something different. They can't become. So in the generosity drive, we're supposed to be contacting people that we have not heard from in a very long time and asking them, what is your intention? Do you want to remain inactive, which is great, it's fine. Do you want to resign because you're really maybe not interested anymore, or it's not relevant? Or do you want to move into a category called like a legacy, where people are very, very elderly and they can no longer participate, but they are granted some lifetime connection with us? Then they would move into the former members at that point. And depending on how long they've been part of it and what the family wishes, that would designate whether they're just not there anymore, or they're continuing to have a connection without any financial contribution. So that is pretty clear to me, I guess, and I wanted to share it with you, how people move in and out of the thresholds of membership. Okay.
Linda Joy has gifted us with information, a snapshot of the trajectory we are on, and that is an incredible gift. So thank you, Linda Joy. Unlike that plucky group that left the known in 1954 in Buffalo for the unknown in Amherst, we have 70 years of experience and an up-to-the-moment view of what brings people to be part of this congregation. What we decide to do with that information will define us for decades to come. A little something. In case you were thinking, oh no, we're not doing the labyrinth today. We're doing the labyrinth today. Each week we bring our whole selves into this sacred time. We bring our joys, our concerns, our sorrows. And this table is where we gather at the center of our space, at the heart of UU Amherst. So I invite you to come forward and place a stone or a shell on the labyrinth in honor of that which you bring with you today. Come forward as you will. That's enough.
Please stop. I already put it there. Okay.
Can we let this go? Thank you. Today we light a special flame as we hold in our hearts all who are impacted by the violence and conflicts around the world. We hold the community of Lewiston, Maine. We hold our own community as we are jarred out of our sense of complacency by the senseless shooting of utility workers. All those affected, all those in harm's way throughout the world. We pray for peace and an end to violence. Hold your own tender hearts in loving care. It is so easy to become overwhelmed. Remember the words of Lao Tzu. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. And if there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. It all starts there. I'm going to invite you to sing just the chorus of All This Joy by Holly Near. I'll sing it once through, then I'll sing a verse, and then we'll sing the chorus together, and we'll do it like that. I am open. I'm in the wrong key. I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us, so lift me up to the light of change. There is hurting in my family. There is sorrow in my town. There is a panic all across the nation. There is a wailing the whole world round. And I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us, so lift me up to the light of change. May the children see more clearly, and may the elders be more wise. May the winds of change caress us, even though it burns our eyes. And I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us, so lift me up to the light of change. Give me a mighty oak to hold my confusion, and give me a desert to hold my fears. Give me a sunset to hold my wonder, and give me a lift me up to the light of change. Please join me as we offer our chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. My invitation is for you to connect during coffee hour, see our newsletter for all the many opportunities in the days and weeks to come for us to become even more closely woven. And I would be remiss if I did not invite you to contribute to the mission and ministry of this congregation. There are so many ways to give. You can text, there are baskets at the back to receive your offerings, or you can go to our website, uuamherst.org, and click on the giving link. Please join me in our closing blessing. Travel light. Travel light and traveling. Look at one another. Travel. We do not have much time to gladden the hearts of those who will travel this way with us, so be swift to love and make haste to be kind. Go in peace.
May I say something? Michelle Mary, I'll come in.